Welcome to the latest episode of Branding the Experience, where we discuss ways where we can create environments where employees actually want to come to work and customers want to keep coming back. I am your host for Branding the Experience, Ken Bader. I'm also the author of the book, The Formula for Business Success Equals B plus C plus S, a discussion on brand, culture, and strategy alignment. And you just caught me watching the Jimmy Kimmel monologue on the latest United Airlines brand and PR fiasco. I think I could write another book on, on this particular issue right here. But yeah, I'm actually going to break a rule, a rule of mine. And I'll come back to why, because it's for a very, very specific point. But for those of you who I've had the pleasure to work with or speak to through these videos, or you've read my articles or my book, know that generally speaking, almost always when it's a negative example, I choose not to use the name of the business, because my point and my objective isn't to disparage a business. It's simply to help us learn. But in this case, it's obvious. And if you've seen Jimmy Kimmel's monologue this week, or if you haven't heard what happened at United Airlines in Chicago with the passenger being drug off the plane, then you're probably living in a cave, and you're probably not even watching this video, so so be it. But what a nightmare. And so I want to talk about what can we learn from that and possibly do things differently. Well, yeah, it was a fiasco from the very beginning, in that, you know, I'm breaking a rule and talking about a negative that happened to a business in United Airlines, but yeah, granted, yeah, they could have broken some rules too at that particular airport in O'Hare, and with this particular incident, that would have avoided, frankly, all of this insanity. You know, I agree with the CEO's first statement that the employees actually probably did follow procedure and follow the letter of the law in terms of the agreement that United had with each of its passengers. Is that long legalese is when you type into your computer and you buy an airline ticket, would tell you. But, you know, as I often say, and I remember reading this several times and hearing this several times in seminars from Stephen Covey, you know, what's common sense isn't always common practice. And if you would have actually looked at the common sense of this, especially since it was a doctor and maybe making another choice or another arrangement with people, then maybe you wouldn't have gotten yourself into this issue. So it was handled so wrong from an experience standpoint right from the start. And then it was handled even more wrong by the CEO's response. Jimmy Kimmel talks about it in his monologue. I think he called it a bunch of corporate crap BS or something like that. In today's age, where, you know, people are so bombarded with communications and see so much branding and marketing, almost everybody can look through BS statements right from that. And I'll give him just a little modicum of credit from his very first statement, which was that, you know, he wanted to have the backs of his employees. I mean, remember, part of this show is creating an environment where employees want to come to work, so there is a little bit of credence of having the employees back and following a procedure that you may have written down for your employees, or in this case the flight attendants. But yeah, there might have been a better way to put that. There might have been a better way to say it in terms of, well, you know, I certainly would support my employees in following the processes and procedures, but I haven't seen the video or heard the entire case of what had happened. So I'm going to hold judgment or just not say anything until you know exactly what happened. Yeah, this was such a bad PR. And then in some ways he made it a little bit worse by backtracking and saying, I apologize and we'll get this right and so forth. And all that does, in essence, is make everybody even more cynical to the brand of United Airlines. So, the one thing that I do like, and let's talk about what maybe we can do in these situations. The one thing that I do like is he said in a statement, and whether he wrote it or one of his PR people wrote it, it's never too late to do the right thing. And that's true, and frankly, darn it, they need to do the right thing because their brand was already in shambles before this. Speaking personally, as an entrepreneur and businessman that travels on a fairly regular basis for a number of different reasons, literally since the early 90s, I abandoned United Airlines because I had such bad experiences and literally never went back. Unlike Jimmy Kimmel and what he says in his monologue, price isn't as much of a factor for me. He mentioned that, well, United has a price that's $1 less than everybody else, people will come back. And, that's not always true. In fact, I'm a pretty particular traveler. And even if I go on a site such as Travelocity to see all the flights, I literally pass by United and one of my old favorites from the 90s, American, that's changed not for the good drastically over the last 15 years. I literally, regardless of price, pass right by them, and I look at my standbys, which are Delta, and JetBlue, and then also sometimes I'll fly Southwest. Those are usually the three airlines that I pretty much exclusively fly, just simply because I feel that I at least get meets expectations, sometimes a little bit better of an experience from those folks, but that kind of speaks to the airline industry in general. But all right, so maybe it isn't too late, or it's never too late to do the right thing. The problem with United is they already had a damaged and very negative brand, and all this does is take a damaged brand into even new depths. So I think that in order to truly turn this brand around, because there are people boycotting them, there's even Asians boycotting them because they think that this was a lash out on an Asian gentleman. Not sure I agree with that, but certainly it was the wrong thing to do from a branding the experience standpoint for United Airlines. But yes, basically what they need to do is begin turning the whole thing around, which is, one, you have to have more communication, like it's never too late to do the right thing, and most importantly, which is the whole premise of this show, is they have to create an experience that shows that. They have to maybe, do some deals or offer some deals in order to get people to experience United Airlines again. And they need to create a culture in that airline, and I'll talk more about culture in this United Airlines situation in my podcast, Cool Culture Corner, next week. But they need to create a culture that is going to create an experience that might have actually had some empathy and understanding of, oh, you're a doctor. Okay, we will move on to somebody else. Or better yet, a culture, and granted, I wasn't on the plane, so I don't know what the communication was, possibly a communication of, we could really use your help. We do need 4 seats on the plane. And I don't know if they did that. My guess is, granted, I haven't flown United in a long time for obvious reasons, but my guess is their offer was probably more of a demand than an actual offer to have people trade their seats for the people that wanted to come on. So I think that to turn this around, they really have to go to great lengths. I think that the main things that we can learn from this is, one, don't get to that particular situation. I work with a lot of financial service businesses, and darn it, there are a lot of CFO types and CPA types that don't have the respect for marketing or branding that they should. Well, the stock plummeted yesterday for United Airlines, from what I understand. And there are a lot of people that aren't going to fly them anymore. That brand mistake is hitting them right on the bottom line. But to turn this sucker around, I think that they really have to put their money where their mouth is and get people back on the planes with probably some pretty incredible deals. And most of all, show them an experience, a well above meets expectations experience, so that they will want to come back. Remember, creating an environment where customers want to keep coming back, and that they can tell their friends, their family, and say, you know what, United isn't just simply talking for the sake of talking about change. They actually are changing, and they do have a sincere desire to create a customer-friendly experience, which frankly they don't have today and haven't had for several years. I'm Ken Bader, your host for Branding the Experience, hoping that we can learn from this unfortunate incident in United Airlines and brand the experience at a much, much higher level at our businesses and organizations. Take care.